We are joined once again by Alan from Freeverse. Good to have you here, sir.
Nice to be back as well.
Now, we talked in London when you attended PGC London 2022, but things have changed in the last few months. Specifically, was it really this week that you had your funding?
We actually announced it yesterday.
Wow.
We announced our Series A funding rounds, so 10 million euros, $10.5 million or whatever it is, co-led by Early Bird Venture Capital and Target Global, and with following on investments from our existing investors, Adara Ventures and Four Founders Capital, and some great other investors. We've got OneFootball.com in there as well, and German international footballer Mario Götze has also invested as an angel, and we have Travel Perks CEO Avi Meir, serial fintech entrepreneur Max Ament. So loads of great people, and we're really happy to announce the rounds.
That must be kind of validating, given that, I mean, as controversial as the NFT market can be, your take on it, the idea of a living NFT, is a different wrinkle again. And I think some people have their difficulties getting their heads around just a plain old NFT, let alone a living one. So for people to kind of put this much stock in what you're doing must be quite...
Yeah, well, I guess what we want to do with this investment round, really more than anything, is follow up on our mission of bringing real value to the concept of Web3 digital ownership, right? And so NFTs have been this buzzword that's exploded in the last 18 months, and they represent the cutting edge, if you like, of the concept of digital ownership within the metaverse. But then that's related to things like fungible tokens and cryptocurrency as well, and what the wider concept of decentralized identity, within gaming in the metaverse. And that's something that we're really interested in Freeverse, and we do think the concept of having this evolutionary asset, the asset that changes according to how you use it, provides a fairer and more sustainable value to that asset, right? And it's not just based on the speculation, as I mentioned the last time we spoke in London. And so, we're very excited to have that validation from really renowned investors, and we're very excited to be funding our go-to-market team more than anything to really bring that message out and come to some amazing conferences like this one.
Gotcha. Well, diving a little bit deeper than we did before, you've talked about the type of agreement that needs to be reached between creators and users when it comes to the process of evolving an NFT. What does that mean? Explain that a little for me.
Yeah, so if you think about what the concept of an evolutionary or a dynamic NFT means, it means that it can change. So how can it change? You can't just have the user saying, I'm going to paint my red car pink, right? Because then anyone could do anything with their assets, and there would be no control over what does those assets, what do those properties actually mean. And so the way we organize it in Freeverse is that the original asset creator has to provide the stamp of authority, the stamp of approval over any changes that occur to the asset. So if the game mechanics state that the user is permitted to change the color of their car, for example, right? Then the original asset creator, the game developer, would have to provide that stamp of approval on the living asset to approve the fact that that change can take place. And so that does mean that there has to be this kind of agreement between the gamer and the game developer. And, the game developer has to be transparent about what the rules are by which the asset can evolve and change. And the gamer says, okay, fine, I accept those, and I'm happy to do so, because it means that the value of my asset is based on how I use it rather than just how rare it is.
So I guess it then falls upon the creator, I guess, to be quite transparent in exactly what they will and won't allow. Because I can envisage scenarios where people have purchased something and they want to make a crazy evolution, and then they're frustrated by the fact that it won't do the thing that they think it should do. How is it just simply a case of very good small print? Like, how does one communicate if we're going to make that kind of agreement?
Well, small print is definitely involved in everything, unfortunately, right? But I think more than that, gamers are already used to the idea of the rules of the game, right? When we play a game, we understand how it works, right? You understand that, and especially now with free-to-play games becoming increasingly common, they're now almost the dominant model certainly in the mobile games industry. They are. Those rules are well understood. You have your soft currency or your tokens, and you spend them in a certain way. You get upgraded for your certain character or your assets in the game anyway. So gamers understand that every game has rules, right, already. And so now it's just a matter of extending those rules to the concept of the NFT, which is now this permanent asset that can be traded, right? So I don't think you're actually introducing anything new and complicated for gamers, because they're already accustomed to the idea of following the game mechanics and abiding by the rules of the game anyway.
I think one of the more interesting evolutions that we've seen within the market itself is people wanting to tie the value that they put into a game to some form of financial reward, or at least finances in some way. Previously it was a case of you bought the game and there was that investment up front, but that investment was for entertainment. That's what you were getting out of it. But now we've had people, even ex-Nintendo president Reggie, kind of very bullish on blockchain and the idea that, hey, pay to earn is a good thing to do. That if I've put all this time into my game, if I wanted to, after a year, sell my Animal Crossing village to somebody, then hey, I should be allowed to do that, and that would be a nice thing to gain some value back. In some ways, you guys are working with something that is a digital asset. It is something where you can technically, get some value back from it, but behaves somewhat differently to the play-to-earn model. What do you feel about this kind of bringing money into this space in a way that actually affects, potentially, gameplay?
Yeah, I think one of the messages that's come through in my conversations here at Pocket Gamer Connect in Seattle is the fact that games, first and foremost, have to be fun, right? And there is the element of play and earn games that if you're introducing money, money can and cannot be fun as well. It can be stressful sometimes, right? And so I think the play and earn model definitely has its place. I think it's definitely had a few successes in certain places. I do think it's a valid model. I don't think it's going to be the be-all and end-all of the gaming industry, and I think finding that balance between those gamers who want to be more involved in the play and earn side with that model, that's fine, and those gamers who don't want to be involved with it at all, that's fine too. And then there's that middle way, which perhaps Freebus enables, which is, if you want to be able to trade your assets, you can, but you still don't have to enjoy the game. And that's something that's quite important for us.
I'm also interested in there seems to be a cognitive dissonance between the way that the public at large perceives NFTs and people within the space. I mean, over the last couple of months, we've seen, last weeks actually, the idea that the NFT market has completely tanked, the bottom's fallen out of it, and that's all the stuff that's being shared online and memes, and yet you've just acquired 10 million in funding. So those two things seem to run counter to each other. Do you think there is still a perception issue for the whole NFT thing, and how do you address it to make people understand what you see as the benefits of it? Yeah,
I think the ideas... NFTs did get a bad reputation to a certain extent because of their association with speculation, right? And it didn't take much imagination to look at what was happening in the NFT space maybe 6 to 9 months ago and realize that this was perhaps accelerating a little bit too hot, going a bit too hot, accelerating too fast. And I think the reason that the reason that we're doing this as Freebus is that we do believe in the concept of digital ownership, whether it's in the metaverse, whatever that is, or whether it's in video games, or whether it's just generally owning things. The cat is out of the bag to a certain extent, I think, with the NFTs. Maybe the NFT speculative boom has passed. I don't think that's a bad thing, because I think it means that a more fair and more sustainable model of digital ownership in the wider Web3 metaverse decentralized world is something that we at Freebus can work towards, and that's something that we're really keen on pushing with our existing partners and our new partners that we're bringing on board now.
So you said that you're going to be using a good chunk of that money to get a push to market. What can we expect from you folks in the next 6 to 12 months? What should we look out for?
Well, the exciting thing is several releases, several press releases, and several bits of news we'll be announcing regarding the signed deals that we have. We'll also be doing quite a big push into various different events, such as this one and other ones that are similar, to try and bring our brand out and bring that message really of a more sustainable and fairer way of digital ownership. So yeah, we'll be making a lot of noise over the next year, definitely.